Okay, hi there. Here behind the paper here. This here's going to be a two-part. This is by the Organic Prepper, and he's looking for motivation reasons. So 21 preppers shared the stories of how they got started prepping. So the Organic Prepper said, one of the most common questions I ask in interviews is how I got started prepping. Uh, that crucial moment when you decided that you need to change the way you live is paramount to understanding the motivation uh, to live a prepared lifestyle. Now, organic farming, he's not the only one. You get that asked that question a lot, and then most of them will look at you like you're crazier than a June bug when you're doing it. And if you checked out my 7 stages that I wrote, it'll tell you what we are as preppers tend to go through. Now, it says, recently I asked many of you how to start it out for an article I was working on. Your answered recent email and social media, and I so thoroughly enjoyed hearing your stories that I decided to publish some of them in this collection. So he got a lot of responses. As opposed to merely quoting bits and pieces in the original article I had planned. Of course, he didn't really plan on, but he didn't realize how this many people will really respond. So sometimes I think all have days where we lose our prepper mojo, excuse me, and I get that a lot. I get disgusted. Just a little bit. These stories of our awakening can serve as a reminder to push you through the low spots, and they just might inspire someone who is considering becoming more prepared to take the leap. For privacy reasons, I reenacted anything that might identify the person on their location. It says, now this is how the organic prepper got started. How I got started prepping. 20 years ago, I was a new mom to a lovely baby girl. My husband had a good job. We had an adorable little apartment, and we were doing okay on our small budget. Then when my daughter was just 3 weeks old, my husband came home unexpectedly in the middle of the night. His good job was no more. Completely out of the blue, he had been laid off. They don't give you no warning, they just do it. Parent insured, rent was due, which used up most of his paycheck, and we had 2 jars of peanut butter, 10 bags of bagels in the freezer, and a garden that had just been planted in the yard but had not yet produced anything we could eat. I've been there. I understand. Been there more than once. Uh, when you got small children and you're just starting out, you don't think about a lot of that stuff. You don't think about prepping. Things like this is what caused a lot of us to start prepping in a situation. I worked restaurants for years, and the main reason I stayed in the restaurant business so I could bring home food to my kids because I couldn't get food stamps. I was told I made too much money. $5 too much money a month to get food stamps. So I want to bring in home food from work, my eat checks and stuff to feed my children. He began applying for jobs, and the very next day he was young, intelligent, and strong. So we figured he'd have no trouble finding work. Unfortunately, we were wrong. He also applied for his unemployment benefits, but it was going to take up to 6 long weeks before any money would arrive. And I've been there. Just trying to. You hate doing it, but you have to ask your family to help you out. Is there any way you can send me a few dollars? Is there any way you can give me some groceries? Can my kids come down for a weekend? Is there a church event going on so I can send my kids to have a meal? We went into survival mode. We rationed our bagels and peanut butter over the course of those 6 weeks. We never considered asking for help. Even though our parents would have gladly given us some groceries and money, we buckled down and just focused on getting through until that first unemployment check came in. We managed to get some Labor Day work a few times, which kept us in enough money to go to the laundromat to wash diapers and clothes, keep our electricity on, and paid our rent. Any debt we had incurred before this, of necessity, went unpaid. We couldn't even afford groceries, so we certainly couldn't manage minimum payments on credit cards. The only bill we paid was the car payment. Since we lived in a small town, he needed a vehicle to seek work elsewhere. I totally understand. Maybe somebody will feel sorry, send me a huge check to the mail and say, hey, you can retire. Maybe I'll get lucky and get it at that side. Not. Since we couldn't afford any type of entertainment, I spent a lot of time at the library, and I've done that. Where I couldn't afford to cut my lights on, I would walk down to the library and get me books to read until I sit outside until I couldn't see no more. One day, when searching for frugal recipes back in the day of the card catalog, I stumbled across a book that would change the course of my life. It wasn't a preparation book in the sense of prep. It was about futility. Amy Dickinson, Dacyczyn. I have probably mispronounced it. Dickerson, uh, or something like that, had written three books that have now been combined into one big book called The Complete Tightwad Gazette. Amy wrote with a sense of humor and a friendly tone, adding quirky illustrations, and immediately became my hero, my go-to girl for all things frugal. I felt a glimmer of hope when I read about her pantry principles, and I knew that there was a way I'd never have to be in this desperate situation again. Although I didn't know it, a prepper had been born. Once hubby's unemployment money came in, I began to quietly build a pantry. I was determined that my child would not ever wonder where her next meal would come from over the next 40 years with the ups and downs of life. Over the next year, excuse me, with the ups and downs of life. I had many occasions to be thankful for my pantry when I was laid off from my job as a single mother during lengthy power outages due to bad weather after incurring a major medical bill a few years ago when we relocated from Canada to the United States. I had to leave most of my supplies behind. This book was inspired by what I learned when rebuilding our stockpile. Personal economic disaster is a common theme. Overwhelming people who responded to my question shared that they had begun prepping due to personal financial questions. Now, I'm just going to read off a few of these, and then we're going to go to part two later on. Number one, my husband's having a motorcycle wreck last July. This by Julie. He broke himself in 7 places along his right side. Suffered from MRSA. They had to do a IV 4 hours a day. Had some of the hardware that was put in removed in the second surgery, and now has 4 blood clots on his opposite arm where he had to have a pipeline. Almost a year later, he suffered from inflammation and chronic pain. If it wasn't for me being a couponer at the time of having a stockpile, I don't know what we would have done. So, Miss Julie here, when her husband had the motorcycle wreck, really made him wake up. Unfortunately, she said if they hadn't had that stockpile, she hadn't been a couponer to begin with, they would have been in a whole lot worse shape. But this here made them both think, and that's what caused them to become a prepper. Number two, the second person was Dee Ann. My husband also lost his job right when our first turned out to be only baby was born. Those first few years were rough, and that does happen a lot. When the child is born, your life changes. It changes. It's not easy. It's just not. Number three is Jane. I inherited my nephew when his mother and father passed away. We went through my 3 month supply pretty quick, and I had to ask for charity on his behalf. When I was just starting out, there was too many times that I had to make a decision to buy a can of beans or a roll of toilet paper. I want to tell you, I would go into a restaurant, get a cup of coffee or something to drink, and I often would share my drinks with my kids. And I'd bring it soft drink out, but I would go in there and grab napkins and I would save all my napkins up. I just wouldn't waste none of them because a lot of times I couldn't afford toilet paper. I mean, those napkins was there for me to use as toilet paper. They would be stacked there because that's what I use sometimes because I didn't even have the money to buy a pack of toilet paper. And buying a soft drink to split between me and two kids in order for us to have something to drink. I can understand where she comes from on that. Number four is Jedis, Jedidiah, Jedediah. 9/11 certainly got our attention, but it was the banking crisis, subsequently recession, the end of 2008 that gave me a major wake-up call. My construction went from 7 employees to little old me. Personal income dropped 70%. From my perspective, that felt like a depression, not a recession. We managed to weather through those difficult years, and we not lived well below our means prior to the recession. We wouldn't have been in serious trouble. Now, here the takeaway from all this. During that period of time, I was not a happy man about what had happened to my business or my great employees. Now, looking back at that adversity, I'm thankful for that experience. My wife and I ultimately survived and thrived. There was a blood, sweat, and tears involved, but as a result of that experience, we are now better able to handle most anything life may throw at us. That empowerment, that freedom, okay, sorry, that freedom, and oh, that's freedom, excuse me. So that is four of them there. And the fifth one here is Brian. Uh, I lost my job in 2009 after I broke my back. Although it healed up, I could no longer do heavy work I have been doing for 20 years. The same year, my wife used all her maternity leave before going back to work, and 2 weeks later, shattered her ankle. They let her go. It was in the worst of the crash, and no one was hired. We lived on miracles and prayer for about a year. We had just moved. I planted a garden and studied how to plant intravenously bought chickens. She Cupid and learned how to do things that made our own detergent to save expense. I think in the meantime we became a lifestyle that we enjoyed. We have been blessed since then, and the pantries are now stocked for about a year. Expanding on that, many other things such as hand power tools, kitchen appliances, candles, rechargeable batteries, and solar panels to charge things have found their way into the inventory. It's a scary thing to be on the verge with few applications access, and we choose not to be ignorant and assuming it can't or won't happen again. In fact, we continue strongly in light of the current economic and situation the world is in, and there is no guarantee that unemployment benefits will be there to help next time. And then number 6 is just with Andrew. A heart attack and financial devastation. He just put it forward. So what you're seeing here is basically the same stories. We didn't run out and do because we see all this gloom and doom around the corner. It wasn't for a lot of gloom and doom. It was just basic everyday life that caused it. Okay, now I want to stop right here for all of you who are thinking about prepping, or for all you who are preppers or that feels alone. Because I get response from a lot of preppers that say, I just feel so alone. There's no one to talk to about it. No one really understands how I'm feeling. And I tell them, I said, no one's really alone because I get depressed. It is hard to talk to people about things, even within limits. When I talk to people about recipes or harvesting things off the land, I'm so leery. How much should I say? How much should I talk about? I got to be careful because you can lose their interest real quick as far as then you can also get them totally just like give you, get away from me, look, you're crazy, look. So you can't fully open up to people like you can someone else who's prepping, who can understand where you're coming from on these things. So this is part 1. And we're going to start on number 7 next on my part 2. And this is Life Prepper here. I want you to be safe, be happy. Bless you all.